Alrighty, we'll get started. Sorry we're a little late. Keynote speaker went over. But we just wanted to say thank you so much. I didn't think that either of us expected so many people to come. So thanks for coming.
Thanks.
We just wanted to start by introducing ourselves. So I'm Jackie Krieiner. I graduated last year. I'm elementary education, and I'm currently teaching first grade at Riverdale Heights, which is just across the river.
I'm VanOpdorp, and I also graduated last May with elementary education. I teach kindergarten at Milliken Elementary in Geneseo, Illinois, and I am also the assistant sophomore girls basketball coach.
Alright. So I think we wanted to start too. Can we get an idea of who everyone is? So if you're a junior, can you raise your hand? No juniors?
One.
Yay! If you're seniors now, very nice. And then there's some alumni. Hi guys.
Sophomores?
Sophomores, very nice.
Freshmen? Awesome.
Awesome, great.
How many of you are secondary ed? Okay.
Very nice. Good to know.
Still apply.
Alrighty, we just wanted to talk a little bit about the realities of being a first-year teacher. I think we all have expectations of what being a teacher is going to be like, and we found that some of our expectations are true, and some of them were completely false, and it's been a big wake-up, and it's been a really great learning experience. So we're going to start with this video, if it'll go. I hope so. This is a video called If I Knew Then. It's a letter to me on my first day teaching. So this is all teachers who have been teaching for a while, and they wrote themselves a letter that they wish they would have had on their first day of teaching.
Remember when Dad said that the first 6 months of anything is the hardest? Well, that is completely true here.
Everything is going to be okay. Things may seem tough right now, and at times you may feel like you want to give up, but please don't.
Just know that you'll make a great teacher.
You are probably wondering, why in the world did I ever get into this profession?
Just take a deep breath. I know that everything feels overwhelming, terrifying even, but you're going to make it through this.
Those kids in front of you, they want to learn. They need to know. Try every crazy thing you think of. In the end, those are the things that they'll remember.
Your students need you there in front of the class, and they truly appreciate all that you do for them, even if they don't show it all of the time.
You'll have trouble the first day of school with a student throwing a book at you. It'll miss, but don't worry. That student will come back 5 years later, introduce you to his new family, and thank you for having his back all the time, even after that first day.
When a kid says your class is boring, don't take it personally. It happens to everyone.
Holding your kids accountable is the greatest act of love you can give them.
Teaching is never an exact science, and it's okay to struggle to find the answers.
This is one of the most important lessons to learn as a teacher. You will fail, you will make mistakes, and you will embarrass yourself. When you do, accept it with grace and humility.
And don't be afraid to ask for or admit you need help.
You will also learn that you never stop learning to become the teacher you wanted to be on day one. I want you to know that what you expected to happen on the first day of school won't happen until maybe the 3rd, 4th, or even 18th year of your teaching.
Lives and futures depend on you. It's scary and exhilarating.
And you will know that this is exactly where you need to be.
No matter what you might think, you are doing a good job through it all, the good and the bad. Just trust yourself.
It's gonna be okay, and 7 years later, you're still gonna love coming to work every day.
So keep up the great work, seek help from those around you, and just know that the work of a teacher is of the greatest importance. Your future self.
So we know that this is sort of scary, thinking about teaching, or maybe if you are just thinking about all the things that could happen. So no matter how wonderful Augie is, nothing can prepare you for moments like these. We thought we'd share some of the funniest moments we've had so far as first-year teachers. The first one, Miss Krieiner, how come no one wants to marry you? I hear this probably every day. They're very concerned for me. They think that I am alone and that no one wants to marry me. They're very sad that I have no children.
Okay, the next one is mine. I kissed a girl and it tasted bad. What did it taste like? Hot sauce. So kindergarten, there are many kindergarten loves. I took a picture the other day of two little ones sitting on the carpet holding hands, their boyfriend and girlfriend, but this one, there were three little boys sitting at my table. They were playing on the iPad and I was just listening to them talk, and one little boy he goes, I kissed a girl, and the boys were like, what? How was it? And he's like, well, her breath tasted really bad, and they're all like into it, and they're like, what did it taste like? And of all things, he goes, it tasted like hot sauce. And I'm thinking, what did you have at lunch? Because when did this happen? It better not have happened in here, but love at a very young age. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. Number 3, I got told you look slim today, which was a little concerning because they're in first grade. Slim's kind of not the word they usually use, and that made me think, what did I look like yesterday?
Oh. Number 4, I don't need to go to the nurse. Second week of school, one of my little boys is being sent to the ER. He ran into one of the poles on the playground. His nose is smashed, blood everywhere. I'm on the playground with him. He comes up, he goes, I don't need to go to the nurse, I want to keep playing. He said, no, like, you really need to go to the nurse. Well, come to find out, he has a very big phobia of nurses and doctors that I did not know about until his mom let me know after they went to the ER and spent a day. It was not broken, so win.
Alrighty, number 5, I dream about kissing her every night. I have 2 pairs in my class. They're very much in love. They've been together, they've broken up, and now they're back together again. And he won't stop screaming at the top of his lungs, we're gonna get married and we're gonna have babies! And I'm like, oh, you're 7, you got a long ways away. And he goes, but Miss Krieiner, I dream about kissing her every night. And I was like, you're so sweet, I can't even be mad at you.
We were talking about vocabulary words, so we were talking about giant footsteps, and one of my little boys raises his hand and he goes, Miss VanOpdorp, you know Jesus is a giant, right? And I have different religions in my class, and one of them does not believe in Jesus, and I was like, oh, how do I respond to this? So I just smiled and shook my head, yes, and that's not the only one. It's, Miss VanOpdorp, do you praise the Lord? Like, all sorts of questions that I was not mentally prepared for, but...
Oh, next one. I only have boyfriends. On day 2 of school, I had a little girl come up to me and she said, you know, I only have boyfriends. And I was like, oh, you mean you have friends who are boys? And she goes, no, I have boyfriends. I date them and then I break up with them. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do about this one?
I went to France last night with my grandma and her Lincoln. I have a little boy in my class and he creates stories, story after story. One time it was his mom just had a baby. The baby died, but she had a new one a couple days later, so it was all okay. But my favorite was he went to France last night with his grandma in her Lincoln. I'm like, what's a Lincoln? He goes, her car. I was like, how do you even know that? What was in France? The stories that you get are never ending.
I went on a field trip on Thursday, my first field trip ever, and I survived. And we went to go see Junie B. Jones. It was Jingle Bells, Batman Smells. And it was over at St. Ambrose. And I had a little boy sitting next to me the whole time. He doesn't like when people are talking when he thinks they shouldn't be. So he's sitting in my lap screaming, why are you talking? Stop talking! And he's not talking to the people in the audience, he's talking to the actors on stage. So I have everyone in the auditorium turned around staring at me because I can't get this little boy to stop screaming at the actors on stage.
This may be my favorite one. I don't know what to do with these. I have a little girl walk out of the bathroom. We were like at the restrooms that the whole school uses. She walks out with her underwear, goes, Miss VanOpdorp, I don't know what to do with these. Well, she had an accident. Brings them to me. She's like, I don't know. And all the kids, their eyes are huge. I'm like, okay, let's go back into the bathroom. I wrapped them in toilet paper. I held them. Had to take them to specials before I went to the nurse, but she changed them by herself. So I was very proud of her being on her own, but oh, I was not. Did not want to touch
but
that. Happens.
Yeah, so what we want to do next is we're gonna, did you give everyone a post-it?
Yeah, I do.
On your post-it, we would like you to write down an expectation for your first year, or if you are a first-year teacher, maybe a fear that you still have. I have a few extra pens up here if anyone wants one.
Oh, I didn't give them it. If you have more than one post-it and more than one fear or expectation, write it down.
It can be a fear too. We call them expectations to be nice, but they can be that you have to.
You want post-its? Sure. Post-it? Sure. Do you need a pen?
When you're done, you can just come stick them up on the board over here.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, all the time. All right, you want to take one girl to She's 17. Oh, I thought we were 16 years old. Are we going to use these for something else?
I just knew you were out.
You don't have to. Are these yours?
Yeah. That's your mother. She's going to show me pictures of her dad on Facebook.
Oh, it happens all the time.
That's what she told me. For the whole class, told it was flattering but odd. It was very odd. It's a weird thing to think. Yeah, it's a sad thing too.
True.
Say girl. Just because you're trying to lie, you don't O'Malley. She's not feeling well. Yeah.
Very nice. Do we have one?
Do we have any more?
Okay. Alrighty, cool. Alrighty. So we'll end up talking a lot about a lot of the things that you wrote up here. I see a lot about fear of being behind on lesson planning. Like, what if my class is chaos? What happens if the principal walks in? Why it's mad chaos? These are things that have all happened to us so far in our first year. The first expectation we wanted to talk about was that we would have lots of prep time. I was in my head, I was thinking, oh, I'll have library. I'll have specials when the kids go to gym or music, and I'll have so much time to plan during my day. Turns out the reality is sort of, I have lots of meetings, and sometimes when I'm not in meetings, all I want to do is sit in silence. There was, I think it was my second week, and I still do it sometimes too. My kids went to library, and I came back to my room, I shut my door, I turned off the lights, and I was sitting behind my desk, and I was thinking about how great it felt to sit in silence, not having anyone talk to me for 30 minutes. And that's what I did for my entire prep period. And I find myself lots of times during my prep periods, instead of actually lesson planning like I should, I'm like decompressing or relaxing.
And on the opposite side of that, there isn't always a lot of prep time, but maybe it's just how our schools are and how our schedules are set up. But I have an hour of plan time every day. Once a week, I meet with my coworkers and we plan for the following week. On Wednesdays, I always have a tech meeting for half an hour during that hour. And in the morning, we have recess time, and each of us kindergarten teachers, we switch recess duties, so sometimes I have close to 25 minutes in the morning. So it all depends on how your schedule's set up at the school, but I usually have enough plan time to get my lesson plans done, but it just all depends, and you do need silence sometimes. I shut my lights off and sit in the dark so it doesn't look like I'm in my room.
I would recommend, as you are starting to interview or as you are starting to go to schools, ask about the kind of prep time you're going to have and what kind of support you're going to have. I know for me, a lot of my prep time is taken up because I have so many meetings with people. I have 2 PLCs a week. I have 1 meeting a week with my mentor, and then I have 1 meeting a week with the instructional coach. So pretty much every prep period of Monday through Friday is spent in meetings. So ask those kinds of things during interviews. What is my day going to look like? What kind of support am I going to have? What kind of commitments do I need to have? So those are always good things to ask.
Okay, our next expectation was like being tech savvy and like we were gonna come in knowing everything, and because being at Augie, we all have iPads. We've worked with Promethean boards or smart boards, or well, come to find out, I knew nothing. I was kind of against the push of buying a Mac. So Geneseo, when I showed up, they're like, here's your Mac computer. This is your computer. This is what you're gonna use for work. This is what you're gonna use. So the ladies I work with, they're between 35 and 50, and they made me post-it notes for all the shortcuts on my Mac because I had no idea what they were. So for 2 months, I had all these post-it notes on my Mac, like shortcuts, and I got so much grief. They're like, you don't know those yet? Like, people from all around the school that I work with, they're like, really? You still have post-its on it? I was like, you have no idea. Like, it's a completely different world. But I do have a projector in my room. It projects onto a whiteboard. I have a set of 10 iPads in my classroom, and there's also a set that I can check out if I want a whole classroom set. I don't have any computers in my room, but I'm in kindergarten and they're really not going to use computers, but we do most of our work on iPads. So.
Yeah. The biggest thing I've learned, I think, is that if I don't know it, the kids probably do. I know a lot of my kids are like, how do you not know how to do that? Like, we did that all last year in kindergarten. I didn't know how to use my Mimeo for a long time, and they'll come up and they'll use the pen and they do it all for me. So it's sort of a learn as you go kind of thing. A little embarrassing to be told by a 6 and 7-year-old how you should be working technology, but it's definitely learn as you go. Another expectation I had was that I wasn't going to have a whole lot of help and that I was going to have to try and figure out a lot of these things by myself. And I know Chloe and I's experiences have been very different, but I found that to be completely false. I have my mentor, I have the instructional coach. She comes in once a week, observes my classroom. She's giving me tips on how I can be a better teacher, what resources I can use. The principal stops in every once in a while to have conversations like, what can I do to help you? What do you need? And I have another teacher. She's been teaching for 3 years, and she has sort of taken me under her wing, and she's like, don't worry, everything's going to be okay, and she helps me plan. So I think my biggest fear going into the first year of teaching was that I was going to be alone and not have any help, and I found that to be completely wrong.
As did I, and the 2 women that I work with are absolutely phenomenal. They gave me all of their lesson plans from the year before, because being a new teacher, I have to send in my lesson plans every Friday, which, yes, I tweak them to how I want them, but they're already laid out for me. I do have a mentor. She's actually the tech lady, so that's very nice, and she helps me a lot. My principal, he stops into my room about 2 to 3 times a week. He'll observe me, just a quick observation, and we have new teacher check-ins about every month. 3 to 4 weeks. He'll come in and we'll talk for half an hour about what are things I could do better, how am I feeling. So the help is there in some way, some form. Don't feel like you're going to be alone, because you won't be.
The biggest people to make friends with are the secretaries and the janitors. I have a spider problem in my room. I get spiders about this big, like once a week, and so the janitor has become my best friend because he's who I call when I want spiders killed. So little things like that, building relationships with secretaries and janitors, they're going to make your life so much easier because they want to help you and they want you to succeed. So I found that to be very helpful.
Yes.
Next expectation is having a hard Common Core transition. I know when I was student teaching last year, I saw mad chaos. All the teachers were freaking out about Common Core being implemented, and seeing them freak out sort of made me worry, like, oh my gosh, is this really going to be this hard? Like, what's happening? Why is everyone so scared about Common Core coming? And I think our biggest find so far is that Common Core is all we really know. It's all we've ever learned in Augie, so for us, it's really no big deal. And you'll actually find that people sort of seek you out to ask for help regarding Common Core stuff because you know it the best. We've had to dive into it so much at Augie that chances are you know a lot more about Common Core than your peers do.
Yeah, and for me, like, my whole school, they know Common Core pretty well. Our math and our reading curriculum is aligned to it, so they really didn't have to do much with it, but it's not that bad of a transition.
I think the biggest struggle that I had with Common Core was when I was at Augie, when I was being observed, it was sort of Common Core in isolation, like, oh, I'm going to pick this standard because it matches what I want to do for this really cool lesson. And for teaching, what's been a lot harder is, oh, I have to teach these standards in a certain order, in an order that makes sense, and I have to do multiple lessons on the same standard, and how do I do that without my kids getting bored? And I've realized that there is so many resources out there and so many people who are willing to help that that thing that I was so scared of really ended up not being a big deal at all. And then our last expectation, I know I did my whole Ed 450 final presentation on how to find resources for your classroom because I was very, very, very concerned that I would have nothing, that I would show up to my classroom and it would be bare and it would be my job to fill it with books and dominoes and calculators and toys and all of these things. And then, lo and behold,
show up in my classroom and there's a kitchen set, there's a Lego table, there's cars, there's books that took me almost 5 hours to go through. Not even my own books. That were just left behind. There were probably over 800 books. Like, it is unreal the amount of resources that will be left behind or that will be given to you. In your school, I know both of our PTAs gave us money to spend and helps out so much. So don't freak out about buying things over the summer or trying to buy things for your classroom because until you get in there and see what you have,
I spent so much money, I think, on books and things, and then when I came into my classroom, I had a full library already, and I was kicking myself. I was like, how have I spent $600 on books when they were already here, and all I had to do was wait just a little bit longer and realize that. And this year already from my school, I've gotten PTA money. We had the Scholastic Book Fair at my school. I got $200 to spend on books. With the holidays coming up, there's a Christmas tree where I get to like put what I want from parents for Christmas and things like that. And so there are resources out there. So don't worry, don't spend all of your summer collecting materials and doing things until you know what's actually in your classroom.
And another thing, right before school, I thought I'd have all this time in my classroom before the first day of school to get ready, to go through, organize. My fault. I could have had 6 days. I took 4 because I went on family vacation, but my aunt and I were in my room every night until midnight or 1 a.m. trying to get ready for that Monday. So Thursday to Monday, I was in my room super late, organizing, cleaning, because from the summer, everything's all over the place. I was thinking I'd have like 2 weeks to get ready. No. So mentally prepare for that moment in time because it's a little draining.
Yeah. And I think another thing I've spent a lot of my summer worrying about is what is my behavior management plan going to look like? What kind of things am I going to do? What are my daily routines going to be? And I found that everything that I planned over the summer, I had to wash everything. I had to get rid of it because I wouldn't know what I was going to use for that until I met my kids.
Yeah.
And so what I had in place the first few weeks of school, slowly I started to realize, oh, that doesn't work so well. I'm going to have to start over. So I think come in with lots of ideas of how you can have your behavior management and do all of that, but don't be very concrete and think this is the only way that I can do it, because I have changed my behavior management plan 3 times already this year. I've changed the way that I organize rotations about 2 times this year. So the way that you go in is not the way that you're going to end up. Oh, I'm sorry, we're getting the time is up.
Well, actually, I was giving it to Chloe, but
yeah, I got it.
You got 30 seconds to wrap it up.
30 seconds. Was there any questions? Anything that we want to go over before we leave?
Okay, I just picked up parents that disagree with my teaching. They won't necessarily disagree with your teaching, they'll disagree with how you discipline their kids, or the story that you give them and the story that their child gives them. And my first angry parent within the 2nd week of school went, whoa. Not a conversation I was prepared for, but said yes. And now I send that mother a weekly email on how her child behaved. So, not necessarily your teaching, just how you discipline them.
Yep. All right, well, thank you so much for coming.